Assalamu alaikum. Today we'll be reading a section from this book, Quran and Seerah Stories. And this section will be about how to pray Salah. One night, a very strange and wonderful thing happened to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is known as Isra and Al-Miraj. Al-Isra and Al-Miraj. The night journey and the ascension. The angel Gabriel, woke him up and took him on a strange white-winged animal called Burak. Burak means lightning. And they went from Mecca to the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. From there he took the Prophet through the seven heavens and finally into the divine light of Allah's presence. One of the commandments that Allah gave to the Prophet was to pray Salah regularly. Allah wanted men to pray 50 times a day. 50 times, wow. But the Prophet begged him to make it easy for everyone. At last, Allah resolved that there should be 5 prayers a day. This shows the great importance of the 5 daily prayers. Therefore, Salah is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It is the duty of every Muslim, male and female, to perform the 5 daily prayers by himself or herself, or along with others in congregation. All the 5 prayers have to be observed at fixed times. The names of the prayers and the times are as follows. So here are the 5 daily prayers. Starting out with Fajr, or early morning prayers. It's 2 rak'ah, and it should be done between dawn and sunrise. Now these are basically just the fard Salah that they're talking about. And then comes Zuhr, or noon prayer, 4 rak'ahs between noon and mid-afternoon. And then Asr, or afternoon prayer, 4 rak'ahs between mid-afternoon and sunset. Then Maghrib, or sunset prayer, 3 rak'ahs between sunset and early evening. Isha, or evening prayer, 4 rak'ahs between the disappearance of the twilight and the coming of the dawn. I have not created jinn and mankind for any other purpose except to worship me. This is from the Holy Quran. Here's a little chart, and it shows all the Fard and Sunnah prayers, the compulsory, and the Sunnah prayers, which is what the Prophet's customary prayers were. Everyone has to say these prayers. Apart from this, there are some more Sunnah and Nafil voluntary prayers, which is good to say as well. So the previous page was just talking about the Fard, and then here it shows the Sunnah prayers as well. That the Sunnah comes first, and then the Fard. and sunnah first, and then sunnah, and then witr for isha. Recite what is sent of the book to you, and perform regular prayer, for prayer restrains from shamefulness and evil deeds. That's also from the Quran. And these are the timings of the Salah. Starting out, shows how much time you have for each Salah. So that's for Fajr. And then this is the sunrise, so no prayers at this time. And this is the Zohar time, Asr time, very little time for Maghrib, and then Isha. I have pretty much the whole night. And here it talks about, because it's about how to pray Salah, it talks about how to get yourself ready and make wudu. Step by step it goes. So you're welcome to pause and explain to the kids how each steps works out. To make yourself ready for Salah, you would require to wash your face and arms, wipe your head, and wash your feet. Say Bismillah, wash both hands completely up to the wrist. Then rinse your mouth thoroughly, sniff water into the nose and blow it out. Then wash your face completely. First, wash your right hand and forearm, including the elbow. Then wash your left hand and forearm, including the elbow. This is called wudu, or ablution. There are 12 simple steps. So we've already been through 6 steps. And then we have just 6 more to go. You pass both your wet hands over your head from the front to the back. See how it's doing? Going from front, middle, all the way to the back. Then you wipe your ears with your fingers from the inside out. First, wash your right foot thoroughly, including your ankles, your right ankle, and then wash your left foot thoroughly, including your ankle. And that basically completes all the 12 steps for wudu. And this is how to perform the prayer itself. After doing wudu, make known for your intention to pray. So you make your intention after you make your wudu that you're going to go ahead and pray, and whichever salah you're going to be praying. Or, yeah. And then these are some steps that they go by: raising your hand and saying Allahu Akbar, and then placing it over over your chest for the girls, and a little under the navel for the boys, or on the navel. Right hand over, and then left hand down, and then you will read Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa tabarak ismuka wa ta'ala jadduka wa la ilaha ghayruk. And then start out with saying A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allah, all glory and praise belong to you alone. Blessed is your name, and exalted is your majesty. There is no God but you. I seek refuge in Allah from the cursed shaitan. In the name of Allah, the compassionate, the merciful. So this is basically right here is basically the translation of what we read on step number 2, right over here. This is basically the translation. Excuse me. And then we'll read Surah Fatiha on step number 3. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahmanir Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. And this right here shows the step 1 where you raise your hand and say Allahu Akbar, and then step 2 and 3 when you're reciting and reading the surah and the dua. And then this is basically the translation of Surah Al-Fatiha. You can after Surah Fatiha now you add on another short surah from the Quran, and in the book they've added Surah Al-Ikhlas. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. And this is the meaning for the translation. And then you would say Allahu Akbar again, and you bow down. And as you're bowing down, you're gonna say Subhana Rabbiyal Azim 3 times. And this is what you're gonna look like. Number 4. When you're bowing down. And then step 5 is rising now to a standing position and say Sami Allahu liman hamida Rabbana wa lakal hamd. And you would say Rabbana wa lakal hamd if you're behind an imam. So we'd go down into bowing position, ruku, and then stand up. After saying 3 times Subhana Rabbiyal Azim, then you'll stand up, and that's step number 5. Then step number 6 is going down in prostrating yourself on the floor, and then you say Subhana Rabbiyal Ala 3 times. And this is also called the sujood or sajda in some language. And this is what you would look like. And then step number 7 is now rise to the seated position, saying Allahu Akbar, and then again prostrate yourself and say Subhana Rabbiyal Ala again 3 times. So this is what you would look like. So go down in sujood and prostrate and say 3 times Subhana Rabbiyal Ala, and then you sit back up. When you're sitting back up, you're going to say Allahu Akbar, and then go back down into this prostration position, and in the sujood position, and say Subhana Rabbiyal Ala again 3 times. So basically you'll be doing 1 sajda, 1 sujood, and then sit, and then 1 sujood again, and then sit. So 2 sujoods. So this completes your first rak'ah, and the second rak'ah will be performed in the same way, except that last steps 1 and 2 will not be repeated. And then when you're sitting at the second rak'ah, when you're sitting down after the last sujood, you sit down, then you'll sit up and say your at-tahiyat. التحيات لله والصلوات والطيبات والسلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن عبده ورسوله. If the prayer has more than, this is basically the meaning of the tahiyat in the top section. If the prayer has more than 2 rakahs, stand up for the remaining rakahs, and if the prayer has 2 rakahs, then remain seated and continue reading. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. And here's the meaning for that. Then you continue reading. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. And here's the meaning for that. And this is what you would look like when you're reading at-tahiyat. Now, while reading at-tahiyat, one special thing which I forgot to point out was when you're reading at-tahiyatu lillahi wa salawatu wa tayyibatu assalamu alayka أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. And then where this starts, أشهد أن لا إله, at that moment when you're sitting, you have your right hand on your knee or on your thigh and have your index finger raised up. The reason for that is that you testify that there is no God but Allah, and you testify that Muhammad is his servant and his messenger. So that's the proper way of doing that for at-tahiyat. And then you continue with Allahumma inni dhalamtu nafsi zulman kathiran wa la yaghfiru dhunuba illa anta faghfir li maghfirati min indaka wa rahmani innaka anta ghafurur rahim. And that's the meaning. And then you turn your face to the right and then to the left, saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And then this completes your prayer. So 9 would be turning your face to the right first, and then 10 shows turning your face to the left. And then this would be the end of your prayer. And now it's a time for personal prayer. You can do some short surah and any du'as. The book has some of the du'as that are listed in here that are usually said. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري ربي زدني علما ربي اغفر وارحمهما كما ربي اغفر وارحمهما وأنت خير الراحمين. So there's your dua position at the end of your prayer. So here are some points to remember for the prayer. At the bottom, they've given us some source for Salah. The aims of Salah are to bring people closer to Allah, to keep human beings from doing indecent and shameful and forbidden things, to purify the heart, develop the mind, and comfort the soul, to remind people constantly of Allah and His greatness, to develop discipline and willpower, to guide people to the utmost, to guide people to the most upright way of life, to show equality, unity, and brotherhood, to promote patience, courage, hope, and confidence, to train people in cleanliness, purity, and punctuality, to develop gratitude and humility, to show obedience and thankfulness to our Creator. And the sources that they mentioned at the bottom are Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Mu'minun, Al-Ankabut, Al-Anfal, Al-Namal, Al-Fatir, Surah Al-Rad, and Surah Al-Ma'arij. Oh, and also Surah Nisa, Surah Nur, and Surah Luqman. So that's that is just a brief explanation of how to do your salah. Hope you like that, inshallah. Apologies for all the coughing and all, because I've got a really dry throat today. But jazakallah khair for watching, and happy reading. Assalamu alaikum.